This episode of Remodel Revolution is brought to us by Closets by Design DFW. Check them out at dallas.closetsbydesign.com or give them a call at 972-361-0010. That's 972-361-0010.
It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years' experience. Here is Alex Guthrie.
Bess Dixon. Bess is a real estate person, what are you? What are you?
A global real estate advisor, but I do specialize in remodel and relocation.
Yeah. And so that's why I always call Bess when I need somebody that's smarter than me, which isn't hard to find.
Thank you for setting the bar.
Yeah.
Good times.
We were talking about what to discuss today, and because there's so many things, there's this wide range of things, and I've asked Bess to do a couple more shows with us. So over the next few months, we're going to do a couple more shows. But today, I wanted to talk about all this relocation that I keep reading about, and it's just incredible what's happening where people are moving. They're just relocating. There's this mass migration in this country, and they're coming to a few states. We're of course, one of them. From what I've read, I think I'm right about this, Texas has been the #1 relocation state in numbers for 4 or 5 years now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so one of the things that Beth sent me when I asked her about this, I said, send me a graph, prove it, man. And so Beth sends me the U-Haul numbers. Beth,
Yes.
the U-Haul numbers? Really?
Yes. Well, because, you need something to put your stuff in
Yeah, right.
to bring with you, right? And
right.
we are, what's great about the United States of America is, dadgummit, we'll just do it ourselves. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there you go.
So, U-Haul. And specifically, it's the U-Haul numbers that are unidirectional. So obviously, it's just going one way and stopping, right? Which is really interesting.
It's like buying a one-way airplane ticket, right? And you're whoever, your friend or your
one and done.
You tell your parents say, when is your return trip? And you go, there ain't one.
One and done. One and done. So, yeah.
So let's put that chart up there, Jason, and let's talk about some of these numbers.
Some of the numbers. It's crazy. It's crazy. So the specific U-Haul numbers are interesting because this, also the chart that we talked about, the visual too, this is Texas Association of Realtors official statement of where are people coming in from. And it's fun to contrast that with the U-Haul because, like, for example, on U-Hauls, Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina is #1.
I saw that.
Yeah. And if you think about it, one way, Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, well, that makes perfect sense because it has, those highly esteemed schools all right there in that triangle, right? So you can almost mark that off as college, Kissimmee, Florida, and Ocala, Florida. That whole area is essentially Orlando Metroplex, if you will, very similar to DFW Metroplex. And that has Only,
I think Orlando might be the only city I've been in besides Atlanta that's harder to get around than DFW.
Amen. And I grew up there, Alex.
Oh, really?
I grew up in Orlando.
Yes. You were a beach bunny.
I was. And I actually grew up in Orlando proper, so I was 45 minutes from the beach, sad to say. But I used to literally go horseback riding on all these roads that you can no longer go horseback riding on.
Wow.
So I totally hear you on the hard to get around.
Traffic is just impossible. But anyway,
crazy.
that's
another
show.
Story, another day.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Texas has most of the cities that U-Haul is, pretty happy about as far as.
I mean, if you drive down, the thing is because of our traffic, you can now go so slow that you get to read all the license plates around you. And my gosh, I mean, you would think that we had a Disneyland here. Well, I mean, there's
Very
people
true.
from all over the country.
Well, don't we really though, Alex? Don't we really have kind of a Disneyland? And it's called, the Fortune 500 is moving to Texas.
Disneyland,
the ultimate Disneyland.
Corporate Disneyland. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, Texas is very much about. We think you work hard for your money, so you should keep it in your pocket. And that also applies to corporate America as well. And so corporations are responding and moving here in record numbers. Even now, it's been going on for quite some time. I mean, you've got some sexy headliners like Toyota, but there's many
smaller
others.
Companies, but powerful, small but powerful. There's also a lot of media people moving here. I think Glenn Beck may have started that years ago. He was way ahead of the curve, and then all of a sudden they're following him,
right?
Because I guess he must like it here. He's still here.
Well, and Charles Swindoll with his whole group, which is now a Christian multimedia organization, they moved here years ago as well.
And so, the Dallas has always had in the past, when I was a youngster, a little pup, we had a hard time growing because we didn't have the infrastructure. We had water issues. There was just a whole lot of. We didn't really have the college. We had SMU, but we just didn't have the things that it took. But it really seems like it started in the 80s, honestly, when they started going, that's not a bad area and there's room to grow. And then the kind of bedroom community started really popping up. Plano, I think, really it got started there when there was all those big relocations of major corporations, Fortune 500 corporations moving in, and I guess it was in the 80s and late 80s and 90s.
You can even say, you can make a case really that as far as being a technology sensitive state, it started with our own Texas Instruments, and and Richardson. Just outside of Dallas, was probably the very first bedroom community, so to speak. And it was birthed by our very own Texas Instruments.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. That's why they never invited me there.
But you're talking about universities and education. That's actually one of the three primary reasons corporations are moving here. Is we've grown up. We are no longer just ranchers and farmers. And please hear that not as a negative. We have expanded our repertoire of specialties. We now have over 50 community college districts in the state and over 37 recognized universities. And so because of that, obviously, we're a pretty well-educated folk, which people appreciate.
Well, and it just feeds on itself, right? It feeds on itself generation to generation. And so we've become a very now I know I keep hearkening back to, but this is my time. So there was a time in the late 70s and early 80s when we had a lady mayor, and our whole push back then, and this is the because of TV shows they were doing here like Dallas, and they were, and there's the Texas swing thing and all that, and she kept saying that she wanted Dallas to be the New York City of the middle part of the country.
New York City.
We never quite met, but
sorry.
I never thought in my lifetime I'd actually see it. But here we are.
But I'd say that I don't know. We have our own swing. We have our own swing, Texas swing on the whole New York City concept.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have the Thompson Hotel that just opened, and if you've not been there, it is absolutely fantastic. It was, it's still in the process of opening, but it was one of the last. It is one of the last projects in downtown Dallas, which is repurposing old high rises as something new and different and better. And the Thompson very much has a swanky New York City feel, but with a little Texas twist to it.
Well, I think people come down here wanting the Texas twist. That's why you come. You don't come here because you want to be in Cincinnati or L.A. or everybody wants to be in L.A. or New York City particularly. I mean, you want the convenience, you want the energy, you want all that good stuff, but you want a little Texan in there. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Right? Or they want the what they perceive to be Texas.
Right.
Which is it? Well, the reason why I differentiate there is because I don't know if it seems like now that everyone is comfortable coming here. They now are trying to like change Texas as a whole to fit more to what they came from, which is always interesting to me.
Yeah, that little battle that's always kind of going on.
Embracing change, but then also pushing back against change. I guess that's just day-to-day life,
Well,
isn't it?
they found out when they got here that we're not really riding horses and we're not really shooting bows and arrows at each other and things like that.
But we do like our horsepower. I do want to clarify with that. And
we like our horsepower. Just drive down the highway.
That's right. I was going to say the speed limit is a suggestion,
is there a speed
not
limit?
a mandate. Yes. So that is one thing that is an ongoing consternation is, maybe in other states where all 3 lanes are going about the same speed, the left lane in Texas really is to explore your horsepower.
Yeah.
That's what it's for.
Yeah. The left, what left lane? I thought there were 3 left lanes.
3 left lanes.
You're supposed to pass on the right when you're in Dallas, folks. Just
there you go.
Get used to that.
So that would be your Texas driving safety tip is please do not consider the left lane as an optional on-off lane. No, it is an on and fast and faster.
That's right.
Or you might accidentally get bumped.
If you don't feel the floorboard of your car when you're driving with your right foot, you ain't going fast enough.
Right. And that actually, that brings up, speaking of relocation and all that, circling back around, that's probably one of the first comments I hear from my clients coming in is they're like, holy heck.
Yeah.
They can't believe that the average speed limit going through the center of town is 70 miles an hour. That's the posted speed limit.
That's just the suggested
speed limit. It just blows their mind. And I'm like, well, it's a big state. We got things to do.
Well, go to the outlying areas where the speed limit's 85.
Right?
Enjoy.
Yeah. Let's give them the training wheels on 70. Then we'll help them work through the rest of it.
So we have this fantastic graph here from the Texas Association of Texas Realtors. And this is a really, I found this to be really interesting. The top 5 states moving to Texas. And not that I was real surprised, only I thought, a little bit surprised. California's number 1. Well, duh. I mean, bye-bye. I'll come and visit on vacation. Florida surprised me that it's number 2. I thought everybody was going to Florida. I didn't realize they were leaving Florida. And Louisiana really surprised me that there's that many people bailing out of Louisiana.
I wonder if that is still a holdover from almost I think the migration impetus was started by Hurricane Katrina,
right.
and I don't think it's really ever slowed down. I think the more what Katrina caused, because Louisiana, the people I've known from Louisiana are very, 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 very family centric, which is an awesome thing. I mean, most people don't ever leave Louisiana, and those that got kicked out because of Hurricane Katrina, I believe now that they've been they've been here for 15 years or so, they're really hitting their stride. They're saying cousins, aunts, uncles, come on.
Well,
so I really think that might be part of it.
It's been long enough that they've got roots now.
Right.
And they're
so now the rest of the posse can come on over.
Illinois, huh?
No,
yeah, right. Bring some crawfish. Illinois doesn't surprise me, but New York being number 5 kind of surprises me a little bit. I would have thought they'd been higher up on the list, but New York, I guess a lot of them kind of stay on the East Coast, maybe head to the Carolinas and Florida.
Well, here's an insight on that. One of my girlfriends that spent COVID in her tiny Manhattan apartment.
Oh, gosh. About as big as this table.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, when her lease came up in August, she said, bag it. And she sold everything she owned. She then went down and got her driver's license, or ordered her driver's license, which she'd never needed before. And she then leased a car for the next 2 years and then drove from New York to Utah. And she's now in Park City, Utah. Because for her, I was like, holy heck, woman, Park City, Utah is kind of pricey. But for her, it was a lateral move. There was no change. So just for what it's worth, I wonder how many other
there's something. COVID, this pandemic has changed our society in many ways that we're just it's really just now coming home to us. But in another few years, particularly when we'll feel like we're on the other side of it, we're going to look back and go, wow, how did that happen? One of the things that I've noticed is that, and I'm in this group, a lot of us have kind of got to this point where we said, is it really worth the sacrifices I make, the energy I'm putting in to living in this big, fast-paced city, all of this thing? Where's the value in all that? And a lot of it is that a lot of us have had to do a lot of reflecting. And when you're concerned about your survival, literally, you start going, what's important? What's more important? And I'm hearing this from my doctor. I'm hearing it from friends of mine. I have some friends that just moved up to Arkansas. They just, it's a successful couple, and they just said, we're done. We've had enough of this. And I think that the pressure that we've all been on, it's not just COVID. This whole year has been cucaracha from the get-go, really the last few years. But it's been crazy. And I think people are exhausted emotionally. And they're like, I'd rather live in a trailer and be happy than worry about whether or not
someone sneezes on you, or
yeah. And I know that it's a sort of a societal thing that's going on. What are your thoughts?
I think I heard on a podcast, and I can't remember who it was. They said, well, really what's happened is what was already happening has just been hyper boosted by a decade. And so his theory was we are now where we were headed anyway. It just got boosted by jumped ahead by 10 years.
The good old days are going to stay the good old days. I mean, we're moving on as a society. We're just constantly evolving and changing. And this just kind of kicked it in the butt.
Right? Yes, to a certain degree. But I mean, haven't we always been evolving? I mean,
we have it. We have been. Yes, and
we no longer do cave drawings to text. We actually do on this electronic device.
You haven't seen any of my artwork.
But if you think about it, cave drawings essentially were the original texting, right? Because you had to say a lot in little tiny black and white pictures, and now we say with black and white
with
pictures
your fingers.
And letters, right? We've always been evolving. Always been evolving.
The views and opinions of this program are for educational and entertainment purposes only and are not intended to replace the recommendations of a hired professional.